What you're about to hear pertains to what has been the focus of much of the world's attention since October 7th. Many of you here today are 14 years old. Do you remember how you woke up on Saturday, October 7th? Maybe what you did that day? Ella Shani Kozen is 14 years old. I need to remind myself of that often when I speak to her. Yesterday, when she and I sat for a couple of hours to gather the photographs and videos from her phone for this presentation, photographs and videos that she herself had taken, more than once she had to ask me, "Is it okay if I show you this picture or this video? I think you're strong enough to see it, but is it okay?" She is 14 years old. She's from Kibbutz Beeri in Israel. English is not her first language. Ella is not here today to show you or tell you everything that she has seen, but she is here to share her story. I'm going to quote a Harvard Westlake Jewish Family Alliance parent who heard Ella speak previously. Her remarkable combination of maturity, bravery, and poise is astonishing. Her story and first-hand account provide an authentic and irreplaceable perspective through the eyes of a teenager that everyone should hear. Ella's pain and resilience through an unimaginable experience will create a more compassionate, informed, and just world in a time that is now and forever a part of history. And with that, here is Ella Shani Kozen.
Hi, like my aunt said, my name is Ella Shani Kozen. I'm 14 from Kibbutz Beeri in Israel. I would like to start my story on October 5th when I invited 12 friends to my house to have a barbecue because it was a holiday in Israel, a Jewish holiday called Sukkot. And we wanted to have a barbecue, and I trusted my friends to make it. But then I saw them trying to make it, and I realized they had no idea how to make a barbecue. So I called my cousin Amit, and I told him that we don't know what to do and how to make a barbecue. And that is Amit. I called my cousin, and I asked him to explain to us, and he did it. And I ended the phone call, and I didn't know it was the last time I'll talk to him before he was kidnapped. And 2 days later, we woke up at 6 a.m. from loud bombing sounds and explosions. We ran to the safe room. I was in the safe room with my mother and my little brother. He's 9, and a friend of his who stayed for a sleepover the night before. And then at first we didn't know what was going on, and then we heard someone knocking on our front door and trying to break in. And I texted some of my friends, and we started talking about it, saying there's someone at the door, don't open, and these kind of things. And then we were told, I need to mention, we live in a kibbutz. A kibbutz is a community that only exists in Israel. It's called kibbutz, and basically we live in a specific area surrounded by a fence, and we all know each other. Like every tiny detail about anyone, everyone knows it. 1,200 people, like a family. It's difficult to imagine, but it's literally like a family. And we have a group chat of everyone in the kibbutz, and then they told us that there are terrorists in the kibbutz and that we need to stay locked in the safe rooms. And then we started texting in the group chat of just the teenagers in the kibbutz. There are like 100 teenagers in the ages of between 13 to 17. And at first they just gave us updates if they're okay, what's going on, and at some point it turned into kids begging for help because their parents were shot, or the house was set on fire, and they're alone. And we were in the same position, and we couldn't help them. And then at around 9 a.m., my uncle texted us, and he said that his house was set on fire, and he doesn't know how long he has. That's my uncle's house after they broke in and burned it. He was still in there, and he just kept giving us updates that he's alive. And then at 12:15 p.m., I saw a message in the group chat of all the teenagers, and it was from Amit. And he said that there are terrorists in his house. They said they are shooting the door, and that he doesn't know what to do, and the IDF units needs to come. The IDF is the Israeli Defense Forces. That's Amit. Amit was in his house with his mother and two little sisters, the ones in the picture from the left. And then we lost connection with all of Amit's family and his mother, two little sisters. His older sister, the one with the white dress in the photo, wasn't in the kibbutz that day, and she was safe. At 2 p.m., we were told that both my grandparents were shot. These are their clothes from that day. I don't know if you can see it in the photo, but there are bullet holes in my grandma's dress. And then we kind of lost connection with them too. Me, my mother, my little brother, and his friend were rescued around 5:30 p.m. by a special unit of the IDF called Okets. They walked in. At first, I refused to open the door. And that was just after hours of shouts in Arabic everywhere and sounds of gunshots. And they kept trying to break into our house. And I refused to open the door because we kept hearing Arabic from outside and gunshots, and I thought it were the terrorists again. But my mom eventually said, it's now or never, and we just opened the door, and luckily it was the IDF. At first they took us to another house with two more families, and we were 7 little kids, like of the ages between 3 to 8. There was me and 4 adults. At some point, a few soldiers opened the door and said, we're taking you out of here, we gotta get out, you can't stay in the kibbutz. And just to be clear, most of us were barefoot, wearing our pajamas, didn't even brush our teeth because we woke up and just ran to the safe room. Some of us were covered with our own vomit and pee, some of us with blood too. And then they took us out of the safe room and we went to the living room. And I remember just looking at the floor for a moment and not realizing what I'm seeing. And then after a few minutes, I realized that like inner body parts were scattered all over the floor. And there were some injured people who were no longer alive, and their condition was terrible. So I covered my little brother's eyes, because he's 9, and he shouldn't see it. And we got out of the house and we started running, surrounded by the unit. We ran for about a mile and something, and this is a video I took from when we were rescued. In the middle of the video there was also a red color alert, which means there are rockets launched from Gaza on Israel. You'll hear it soon. She says there are children here because there were some things we shouldn't have seen by the side of the road. Here.
בסדר. אנחנו צריכים לרוץ. חבר'ה, בואו נתקדם למכוניות. יאללה. תעזור להם גם. כל הכבוד. כל הכבוד, כל הכבוד. יאללה.
The soldiers are saying in Hebrew, well done, keep running, you're good, keep running. I won't show the rest of the video because it contains some graphic photos. And anyways, after we got on the bus, I remember just after we got out of the kibbutz, you know, obviously everything, I did not film that part, but everything around us was on fire. Houses of my friends, when they were in them, and there were exploded cars everywhere, and there was like trails of blood everywhere and bodies by the sides of the roads. I don't want to get into the graphic details, but I'll just give you that in general. Some of them had some body parts cut off. Some of them were burned. Some of them were not, I'm sorry, never mind. Their limbs were lopsided. There were soldiers, civilians, terrorists. I remember noticing the difference between the body of an Israeli soldier or civilian and the terrorists, because the terrorists were just shot because out of danger. And I remember noticing the Israelis who were, I swear you could, just by looking at them, you could know that they were tortured before they died, and their condition was terrible. And that's what, after we got out of the kibbutz, we rented a bus, and then I remember seeing some of my friends and the ones who survived, and they started telling us who they saw on the way, who didn't survive. And like I said, we knew everyone, 1,200 people, like a family. So we all started crying, and then one of my brother's friends, he's 8, he ran to my brother, and he said, my brother's name is Eyal, and he said, Eyal, you won't believe it. And he looked like a total mess, like he was just wearing his shirt and boxers. His glasses were off, and there was like blood all over his face. And he said, Eyal, you won't believe it. I saw they killed my dad and sister, and my mom's in the hospital. His sister was 10 months old, and she was shot at the mother's arms, and his mother is still in the hospital because the mother was shot too because she was holding the baby. And then we find ourselves with an 8-year-old boy and his little brother who's 3 going on the bus without their parents, without their little sister. And honestly, that's when I started realizing what happened. And then we went on the bus, and these are the pictures I took from the bus. Some of the glasses were broken because they shot at the bus. So there were glasses everywhere on the seats. And the bus was full, like people were standing everywhere. There was not enough room for everyone, so we just tried to get in just as many people as we could. And these are some pictures I took from the road before my phone died. We got to Tel Aviv. In Tel Aviv, there were also still rocket alarms, and there were some soldiers who noticed us crying, and we all looked like a mess, you know, with our pajamas and sweating and vomit, pee, blood, like I said. So they hugged us. Some of them took us to, I remember a few soldiers took me to wash my face, and they gave us food and helped us. And then we were, then my uncle, whose house was set on fire, called us. He said he's on his way to the hospital because he inhaled too much smoke, but he's alive. And then he said, don't try to call my ex-wife, who was with Amit and his 2 little sisters, because all their phones were broken. They're on their way to the Dead Sea. Amit was kidnapped. And he sounded all stressed and afraid, and yet he told us that it's the best news possible because Amit is still alive. There's Amit. That's his dad, Nero, whose house was set on fire. What happened with Amit? 7 terrorists walked into their house, took them out. They stole their jewelry. They ripped Amit's little sister. They ripped her necklace off her neck before taking selfies with them while pointing knives at their necks. Then they tied Amit's hands behind his back, along with the father of another family and another teenager who was in the kibbutz. They put them in a car and drove away to Gaza. We hoped Amit will be released today as a part of the deal, but he wasn't. These are a few more pictures of Amit, me and his sisters. And then we were told that both my grandparents were rescued. They were on their way to the hospital. My grandfather said he's okay. He got shot in his leg, but he survived. My grandma had 2 bullets in her liver, and one of them that hurt her back and elbow. After 9 hours of bleeding, with 3 living terrorists in their house, eating from their food, sleeping in their bed, they were taken to the hospital, and my grandma had to go through an urgent surgery, and she survived, which is crazy. And then 5 days after the massacre, we started getting updates about our friends who have died, or our friends who were kidnapped, or family members. And then I remember hearing my mom crying in the bathroom, and she was crying for all these days, so I didn't think it was anything special. So I went to check what was wrong with her, and I just said, "Who is it now?" Because we already knew what was going on. And she looked at me without saying anything, and I knew it was about Dad. And then she hung up the phone, and I sat on the ground, and she told me that my cousin was called to identify a body. That was my dad, and he was at another house when the attack took place. He wasn't with me, and he was shot in his house, and he was dragged out of his house, and he was burned. And then I buried him one day after that. And these are pictures from the funeral. There was supposed to be like a grave already, but there were too many graves needed in Israel. So right now it's still just a piece of land, but there'll be a grave soon. I just took a picture of what it's like now. That's the video I took from my dad's house 1 month after the incident. So that was my dad's house, and I didn't really mourn his death yet because nothing is over. My dad was the first one from the 100 people of the kibbutz who were slaughtered that was buried because the pathologist said his body couldn't wait and they couldn't keep it in the fridge because of its condition. And then we buried him, and there are just a few things I couldn't talk in the funeral because I couldn't say last words because it was just one day after I was told, and I wasn't mentally ready to, say goodbye. And there were many things we didn't get to do. And I remember just five hours before everything started, at 1 a.m., I was sitting with my best friend at the grass in the kibbutz, and we were talking, and I remember telling her, I want to start calling him Dad because I think he deserves to hear it. And she said, "Don't worry, you'll get the chance." And I didn't know 10 hours later it was about to be taken away. And just I keep visiting him. I want him to know I did love him. We had a complicated relationship, and I keep visiting his grave, visiting him. He was also excited when I visited him, and I just don't get I enjoyed being with you and I enjoyed seeing you texts anymore, but I'm still visiting him. These are pictures from other houses in the kibbutz. The house that you see is completely burned is the house where the two other men who were kidnapped with Amit, my cousin, were taken from. And from the right you see the neighborhood where my uncle was. He was one of the only survivors. That's a video also showing what happened that day.
הצד הזה הכל הלך פה כאילו...
Now, most of the kibbutz was destroyed. I couldn't put all the videos I took here because I was told they're too graphic to show. But that's the kibbutz, a part of it at least after the incident. There's not even almost, there are barely a few houses in the kibbutz who no one were murdered in and they weren't burned. But most of the kibbutz is ruined. And right now we don't know really what's going to happen with us. Right now the country is sponsoring us for staying in a hotel, everyone, but it can't stay that way for so long, so we're trying to think about a solution because we can't go back there yet. I want to take a moment to talk about the Evan family. You see Do, the one with the leaves behind him, the one from the right below, that is Ido. Ido was my friend, and there are two kids called Tomer and Nir Evan who are alive, and they're in the hotel in the Dead Sea, and they're alive because these four aren't. These were their parents and their two older brothers. Their house was set on fire, and they were begging for help for about 6 hours before we lost connection with them. The two little brothers, the 12-year-old brother gave a testimony about what happened. After the house was set on fire, they knew they had no chance to stay alive because the safe room got filled with smoke. They jumped out of the window as an attempt to escape. They laid, and the terrorists found them, so their father, you see him in the picture, his name was Chen. Chen told the two little ones, the 8-year-old one and the 12-year-old one, lay on the floor. Then he asked Ido and Alon, the other ones you see, they were 14 and 16, lay on top of them. Then the mother and the father. And they were shot from everywhere. And just the two little ones, Nir and Tomer, survived because they were in the bottom of the pile. And now they're both orphans without their parents. And I wanted to tell that story because I think Ido, Alon, Rinat, and Chen were heroes. And I think for anyone who's willing to listen, I think needs to hear their story. It deserves to be told. And that is Liel Chetzroni. She was murdered along with her grandfather, her aunt, and her twin brother. These were also my friends. I had a good relationship with all of them. Yanai, the twin brother, I used to teach him math, and we used to play tennis together. And he was such a cute, sweet boy. The other one was my cousin's friend. We all loved them very much, and we all know what happened to them because there was one survivor from the incident that happened to them. They took them out of their house along with the rest of the neighbors. They made them stand in a line, and they just shot all of them one by one, Holocaust style. And after that happened, Liel, the girl you see in the picture with the blonde curls, she was taken from there after she was shot, and she was burned to a level that it took 6 days, 6 weeks for archaeologists to recognize and announce her death. Her toys were buried instead of her because there was nothing to bury. And now there are rumors running online that she was killed by an Israeli tank. I'm here to say that she wasn't. She was burned. And we have proofs for that. And I just want to ask you people, respect her memory. She wouldn't want people to think the soldiers who protected her friends and other family members are the ones who killed her, because it's simply not true. And another fact, Liel was murdered before the IDF soldiers even got to Kibbutz Beeri. So there's no way an Israeli tank killed her. Besides, the tank only got around evening or night. It took them very long. They got just around the evening, and Liel was murdered between morning and noon, along with her family. Please don't believe everything you see online. Respect her memory. She was murdered by Hamas terrorists and not by the IDF tank. And if she was shot by the IDF tank, she wouldn't be recognized by archaeologists because there wouldn't be ash. I think we all know it. Let's just think in a reasonable way. She was murdered by Hamas, and people have to stop inventing these kind of things on social media, and please stop believing it. Let's respect her memory as she deserves. Now, I just want to finish by saying there are many, many lies running on social media, and I'm sure some of you think that way, I don't know, but many people see Israel as the bad guys. I want you to know there was a ceasefire until October 6th, and everything was good. And now what happened to us? I'm here to tell the story because I can. My friends can't come here, they can't get out of bed, honestly. And I'm here to tell the story. I'm here to tell you these horrors did happen. Don't question it. Babies were beheaded, elderly were beheaded, people were burned and burned alive, people's body parts were cut off, women were raped. I have names, I'm not gonna say it here, but we have clear evidence. I'm gonna respect these people because some of them were my friends, and I don't think they would like to know other people to know what happened to them, even though they're no longer here. But please don't question what happened that day, because it did happen. And there's a reason the IDF is called the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. They weren't there to kill Israeli civilians, and they did not kill Israeli civilians. Again, don't believe everything you see on social media. And please just question what people tell you, okay? Because many things aren't true. What I'm telling you here is I'm talking about facts and facts only. The name is Elashani cousin. I'm not ashamed of what I'm saying. I'm standing behind what I'm saying. I'm giving you the truth. Thank you.